Good morning, my name is Alejandro Colete, and today we are going to be reading The Little Prince, this very famous book by Antoine-Exupéry, in two different languages. We are not going to read the whole book naturally. I'm going to read only the first paragraph of the first chapter of the book, and we are going to compare it in two different languages, and I've chosen today these two languages that I really like. At your left is a Kurdish. This is Kurmanji Kurdish. It's a version of the book that I managed to purchase online. And at your right is the Latin version, which I managed to purchase in a bookshop in Madrid, in a very good bookshop in Madrid. The interest in doing this is comparing these two languages that are actually related. As some of you may know, languages such as Latin and Kurdish, they both come from the same language family, which is the Indo-European language family. In this case, Latin comes from the Italic branch, and Kurdish come from the Indo-Iranian branch of Indo-European languages. Kurdish is closer to Persian, closer to Dari, closer to Urdu and Sanskrit that it is with Latin, but nevertheless they both share some similarities, and we are going to see precisely what those similarities are. I must say before I start reading this, the first paragraph, that I know way more Latin than I know Kurdish. So I will do my best in reading Kurdish, and I will do my best in reading and understanding this, and because again I'm not an expert in Kurdish, so I will just do my best. If you happen to know Kurdish better than I do, if you happen to be Kurdish and you happen to be a native speaker, I appreciate any comment, or any check. Was my pronunciation correct? Was my analysis correct? Anything I very much appreciate. I cannot say the same from Latin language, because there are no native speakers of Latin language left alive, which is a pity, but this may change soon. Hopefully, if I have children, I definitely will speak Latin with them, so maybe I will manage to raise one native speaker in Latin language. But before I start with that craziness, let's go back to this. So I will start with the Kurdish version, and then I will just read the text, the first paragraph, and then I will do the same in the Latin. De maes shesh salibum jareke dinaf pirtukeke di bare daristana hof de kunavewe chiroken rastekin bu min weneyeki behempa dit. Weneye mareki boa ku nachirek dadi kurtand. Kopijek ji we nigareu va ye ligiore. Cum 6 annos natus essem in libro de vastissimis silvis, qui inscriptus erat verae fabulae picturam egregiam conspexi. Picta erat anguis mirabili corporis magnitudine feram devorans, en picturam depictam. So what are these two way different texts? Actually have some similarities, and basically those similarities are seen especially not so much in the vocabulary, which is way different, but it's felt basically in the grammar. So I will start like translating kind of word by word and see what the comparisons are. So first of all, we both texts start with a particle. This particle in this case is ndema, and in Latin is cum. The value of this particle is basically a narrative value. It means basically like when, so to say. It's a moment in time. So dema es shesh salibum. This is when I was 7 years. You can feel this similarity right now, because the root of this verb to be is precisely the same as it is the root of the verb in English, that is the be. Both languages still keep the same Indo-European root. Anyways, this shesh here and this sex already tells us that there is something in common. In this case, like, it's very clear, like the number is numbers are usually a very interesting thing to see if you are comparing different languages. You want to check if those languages are related. One of the ways you can do that is look at words that have this very particular thing, that they do not change or change way less than other words. In this case, for example, the numbers are one of these group of words that rarely change in time. So, for example, by checking, you can see that there is a clear relationship with these two. Now, if you check the whole sentence, dema es salibum and cum 6 annos natus essem, there is not much in common, but still you got the number. If, as you can see in Latin, there is no such a thing as a subject of the sentence, because it's not necessary usually to state the subject of the sentence out loud. You already have conjugation of the verb essem. This M is telling you that it's first person singular, and in this case, boom, this M, just like this M is also telling you that it's the first person singular. So again, this is another point in common. We keep on going. Yareke is actually two words. This eke is one, and the jar is like the moment. Like one moment, we can say at some point in my life. In this case, this is not there is no word for it in the Latin version. Like, it's already talking in the past. So we will keep on going. So when I was 6 years old, at some point, dinav pirtukeke derbare daristanahov de, and this d and this de form in. These both together work as the particle in, which is here, in. It's in English. It's the same in Latin as it is in English. It's in. So, dinav pirtukeke, this pirtuk is libro, in libro. Di pirtukeke, in one book. Again, this eke here is found again here. This eke is one. So it's pirtuk is the word for book, and pirtukeke is in one book, like not in one book, but one book, and together with these particles form in one book, as in libro. Again, if we go to the Latin version, there is no particle for that. It's in libro. You don't say in English, you would say in one book, and that would be perfectly correct. But you can say, you can get away with it in Latin without having said one. You just said in libro, and it's there is no difference in Latin between definite article or indefinite article. Actually, there is no article in Latin whether it is definite or indefinite. So yeah, we just say in Latin in libro. Der bare daristana hof. Libro de vastissimi silvis. So, daristana is the word for forest or jungle. Silvis in Latin, again, there is no difference between jungle and forest. And if you think about it, there shouldn't be. Like, the word jungle and the word forest clearly designate both the same things. Silva is the word in plural. Silvis, vastissimi silvis, is ablative plural for this feminine word silva. So vastissimi silvis is huge forests. In this case, hof is meant as not savage in the meaning like virgin. Like when we say, for example, like a forest is virgin, like it hasn't been touched by mankind. Daristana hof is this. Vastissimi silvis is translating also this concept of the forest not being touched by humans. And ku, and here we notice again a similarity. This ku and this qui is actually the same particle. It comes from the same, both these particles that sound similar as well. Qui scriptus erat, verae fabulae, cunaveve Chiroken rastekinbu. This bu we already see here. This bu and this bu. This is the verb to be in the past. So, kunave, nave is name. We don't see here name, the word for name, but actually you can see it in English. It has a similarity. We could say in English, whose name. This particle is just saying, like, it could be like the word for its, like its name, like its name. Its name, Chiroken Rastekin Bu. So the name, its name was True Stories. Chiroken is stories, Rastekin is true. In this case, Verae would be Rastekin and Fabulae would be Chiroken. Verae fabulae, vera, this again true, and fabula is like this story, is the word, Latin word for story. We were here already. So picturam egregiam conspexi. In Latin, there is a bunch of words to express the idea of I saw, I looked at, or whatever. So conspexit is like to look at something. What I saw is this picturam egregiam. Picturam is picture, so it's very easy to understand. Actually, the word pictures come from this word. Egregiam is like excellent, like marvelous, like something eminent. Okay? If we go here, min weyeneki behempa dit. This dit means I saw. What I saw is weneyeki behempa. This wene, I actually put it here. Wene is picture, is the word for picture. This ek is relating to the idea that it was one, just like in this eke here. So this, I saw one picture. And this behempa is the word egregiam in Latin. This behempa is this excellent, this marvelous, this amazing picture. Picta erat anguis mirabili corporis magnitudine feram devorans. So this is way short in the Kurdish version. Weneye, so the picture, mereki boa. So mereki is the snake, the snake that is anguis in Latin, anguis mirabili corporis. Mereki boa. In Latin, in the Latin translation, you don't find the word boa. Instead of boa, they say corporis mirabili corporis magnitudinem. So it is marvelous, like corporis is like body, because the translator didn't want to use the word for boa. Very likely there wasn't a word for boa in Latin because they didn't know what boas were. So anyways, mirabili corporis magnitudine, so we understand like it is the boa, it is anguis, the boa snake, feram devorans. Okay, so devorans here is an active is an active a participle, so it basically translates as eating or swallowing, and feram is what is swallowing. You can see already here like picturam, this picturam egregiam, and this feram is working actually in the same way. These are all mean is the direct object of the verb. What I saw is picturam egregiam, and what the snake is swallowing is the feram. So it's the direct object of the verb. The direct action of the verb is going in this what is marked with this am. So feram devorams. How it is expressed in Kurdish? So it is surprisingly very similar. So ku, again we find this ku. So we can translate that as who, as the relative particle who. So this is a boa who is swallowing, dadikurtand, swallowing nechirek, one beast. Feram here basically means the same. We can translate like this nechir, and fera is actually is a nice translation. It's like a beast, like a wild animal. We are referring particularly to a wild animal. In Latin we could say animalis, and animalis would be animal. The word animal comes from Latin, but Romans usually refer to wild animals as fera. Wild animal is eating one who a wild animal is swallowing. And we see here another similarity between Kurdish and Latin. First of all, notice that the devorans and the dikurtand both comes at the end of the sentence, and the end of it, ans, and actually comes from the same suffix. It's the same suffix. It's one thing. The active participle actually has been preserved both in Latin and Kurdish, more or less the same. It's the same particle, and it's almost preserved exactly as it was. And consider that if this were to be conjugated, this final S would transform in a T sound. For example, devorantes, devorante, devoranti. So this NS, when conjugated, would sound even similar to this ND sound. We are almost at the end, I promise. This is just the last sentence and we are done with it. En picturam depictam is very similar. Here is closer to the original. Kopiek jive nigare va ye ligiore. So one, again, this ek is this ek we have seen in other places, like here. One copy, je vais nigare, of this illustration of this picture, va here ye ligiore. It basically is shown here. We can translate this thing as it is is ligior, ye ligior it is shown here. So we are done. Thank you very much. If you are interested in this kind of things, please let me know. I will keep doing things like this if I see that the video raised some interest. So please let me know if you want to see more of this, other languages, or if you want to keep going with the Latin and the Kurdish comparison, or if you want to compare two other different little princes. I have a bunch of them. I have a bunch of translations of the Little Prince, so I'm very happy to make these videos if you find them interesting. So please let me know in the comments section, and yeah, see you next time.